So I'm Brooks McKenzie. I just happen to have a PhD in experimental and developmental psychology. So technically I'm Dr. Brooks McKenzie, but I only use that if I have to return something at Walmart without a receipt because it comes in handy then. My area of expertise, so I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, I don't really care how you feel or what's going on in your life other than from a Christian perspective. I'm a researcher. I served as the Assistant Director of Research at the TCU Institute of Child Development. If you've ever worked for a nonprofit that serves post-adopt, foster care, at-risk children, or anything like that, I've probably trained your organization, your people, whatever it is. My area of specialization is developmental psychology, so the time the egg is inseminated to the day you die, but within that, specifically child development. How we jack up children, and how we don't do it, and how we fix it when we do it. So I've trained CPS workers, administrators for years. I've gone all over this state doing this thing. So that's where I'm going to come from on everything I speak about. I'm also a late in life Christian, so I'm a little rough around the edges. I will try not to drop an F-bomb. I'm usually pretty good at that, but I can be a little abrasive. And I tell people jokingly that God blessed me with anger. So if you know the sheep, wolf, sheepdog analogy, I'm more of the sheepdog. In what we do in our state, like I love Texas, except for how we treat our vulnerable populations, our elderly, our mentally ill, and our children. So our most at-risk populations, we are the worst in the nation. We are consistently ranked 47th out of 50th in how we deal with our children, our mentally ill, and our elderly. So the populations who cannot take care of themselves, who can't pack a bag, can't move, can't this, can't that, we do not serve them. And it's been like that forever. I was supposed to speak with another man tonight, and I don't think he was able to make it, so I'm going to cover some of his stuff too. Within my area of expertise is a thing called attachment, and most of you have probably never heard of it. It's, where you take two things and some super glue, and no, that's a different kind. So attachment, if you've ever watched the Discovery Channel, and there's that guy, and he has the hang glider thing, and then he has these ducks that follow him around like mom all the time. He flies his glider and they fly with him. They literally think that he's mother. In birds, it's called imprinting. In children, it's called attachment. And it is a biological, innate, meaning we are born with it, mechanism that kicks in at about 6 months of age. And the most deep, meaningful relationship you will have in your entire life is that relationship between a child and a parent. It shapes you and it molds you for the rest of your life, or it breaks you and sends you down a path of prison, alcoholism, addiction, failed relationships, suicide, prison, homelessness, on and on and on. So what we pour into our children, and it's funny, as a late in life Christian, I'll segue a bunch because I just, apparently my PowerPoint won't play, but I'm cool with that. But I was a researcher long before I was a Christian. And so I knew all the research on what healthy families and healthy children and how to do that was. And when I became a Christian through a series of burning bush events, I was like, oh my gosh, everything I know from science is laid out in this other book I just read. It is literally God's plan. And the hilarious thing is that it goes back 50 years worth of research, but it was all done by academics for the most part who hate God, because if you ever worked in academia, it's extremely liberal. No one wants to hear anything about God. So the people who despise God, I'm not saying all of them did, but for the most part they do, literally proved God's plan for the family. They literally proved God's plan through decades of research on how to raise a child, how to make them resilient. And so if I have a healthy relationship with my child, meaning I pour into them, I use that phrase because, that's essentially what I'm doing is I'm pouring into them either love, nurture, safety, or my issues. I'm pouring into them either way, but if I have a healthy relationship with my child, they're much less likely to have any difficulties throughout their life, because it's like a buffer. They learn how to deal with the world because I take care of the problem and it gets fixed, and I take care of the problem and it gets fixed, and I take care of the problem and it gets fixed. Think about a baby. If you've ever had a baby, how many times you pick it up and you pat it? Oh, what's not hungry? Oh, what did it's not poop diaper? What is it? Oh, wait. So I put him, you know, my kid had all kinds of digestive problems. So I put my fist up and set him on his belly. That's gas. Found it, but I fix it. And you do that hundreds of thousands of times in their first few years of life, and then slowly they take it over. And what that does is it trains the brain, oh my gosh, and you fix it, it brings it back down. And then as you turn it over, that brain now has, because we have neural pathways, what we do, we get better at. And so I've taught that child how to deal with the world. But if I don't do those things, he never gets those neural pathways. And when he gets a problem, he doesn't know how to deal with it. He doesn't come back down. He stays up here and just goes further up. And so that's basically what attachment is in a nutshell. It is how you raise a child. And what do we know about attachment? It comes online at about 6 months of age. Explosion up until about 3 years of age. But we also know it can be healthy or unhealthy. We're not going to go into all that. Healthy is optimally what we want to see. But even unhealthy parents serve a purpose. Can they do better? Yes. Other ways to do better? Yes, 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 yes.